And so it doesn't matter, I'm growing broccoli. You're out of the field in 4 months. Hemlock lives to be 1,200 years old. Here's your R-selected plant that's over really fast. Here's your K-selected plant that's going to live for 1,000 years if you let it. The principles are the same.
Pretty awesome,
Well, thank you, Chris.
What I say, thank you. When Ron Morris was working on the Virginia Tech project, he turned to me one time and said, Pat, the problem is I go out because his special area of expertise is low-till and cover crops. He said, the problem is, Pat, I go out to talk about the low-till cover crops. All they want to hear about is the farmscaping.
Right.
That's all they care about. I said, Ron, it's because they get it. The world works, and they love it. And it really is. People are fascinated because it's just like, oh, it all does make sense. It all fits.
And Ron said something else that was real interesting. Once he, it didn't take him too long to get up with me and Pat. We started sitting around, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, okay. Ron said something that was real interesting, because what we ended up doing, the final product that we ended up doing in broccoli was we were doing no-till broccoli, with these big mulches. We're averaging more than 2 pounds of broccoli per plant, because we'd get a head that weighed 500 grams, or actually we had to pick them smaller. The market's coming to us going, your broccoli heads are too big. I'm going, that's a good problem, okay. And then we use varieties like Pac-Man, or I don't know if Pac-Man's available now, but we wanted varieties that would shoot up side shoots. Our side shoots would weigh 140 grams. If you put 3 of them together, they were bigger than a California broccoli. So I drive down here in the rain, 29 cases of broccoli to show the Earth Fair people, Bobby Sullivan, and I can't think of the Italian guy's name. I'm 2 blocks from the warehouse. It's down, remember it used to be down here somewhere on the other side of the road? And one of my belts in my truck goes out. So I pull over, it's in the rain, I see it's my air conditioning belt. Just cut that thing, drive down the road like another half a mile, make it there. What we do is we put all of our broccoli on a pallet and shrink wrap it real quick. And then the CEO, can't think of his name, some Italian guy comes out and he's like, okay, open up these boxes. So you open up a couple boxes and he looks at both of them. He goes, whose is this? It's ours. He goes, you guys got a contract. Boom, man, it used to be the greatest. I would drive down to Whole Foods or Wellspring down here, whatever it was called in the East Gate, and I'd drop off. I could put 780 pounds of broccoli in my Mazda truck, 3 deep with silver tarp, and then just ice that thing up as heavy as I could and head here as fast as I could.
So what did Ron Morris also say?
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm getting at the end.
Moments are hard to forget.
It is. Thank you. Yes, okay. So what Ron said was farmscaping and no-till are not additive. 2 and 2 is not 4. Farmscaping and no-till are exponential. When you put those 2 things together, there's a synergy there that happens that we have lost the ability to recognize. And so coming from him, Mr. No-Till, this is the guy that was doing no-till in the 70s.
Roller crimping?
Yeah, he's roller crimping, and yeah, we were using we used several different things. We used Sudex with vetch, hairy vetch, you know what I mean. We used millet. I mean, we tried all these different things. All of them would work great, if we could get them. If you can get them in and get that plant established, that was the hardest thing, is to get that stuff in there. The best the most biomass that we got was sun hemp, and I'm trying to think what the companion plant that we had in there. That stuff got.
Could have been probably Sudex.
It could have been Sudex. Yeah, it was Sudex, because we went in and I actually cut the Sudex heads out. Yeah, because I didn't want those in there. And we would roll. That stuff was 4 tons an acre biomass.
Sun hemp, incredible nitrogen.
Oh, it's.
What Ron does is he grows rows of lagoons, and then your walk area and your edges are the grains. So lagoons is all a set of
right.
We had sun hemp out there because the yellow flower, pea flower that we were next to but didn't look at. I have some pictures we get on the web. It's incredible.
We would sickle bar cut it.
The nodules on that sun hemp are clumps. They're not single non-unit clumps.
You would just sickle bar and lay it
I'd sickle bar and lay it down, and then we had a coulter, and we could just split that thing and then come in with our, well, Ron had this special rig that would plant and no-till, but I'm pretty sure there's stuff around here now. He had a coulter that would split it, just drop the plant in, cover it back up. I mean, we might shoot it with a little fish emulsion back then.
But see, he has to rip a strip too if you're planting. This is basically that'd be for August production. You
Right.
got to rip a strip too because that Sudex isn't dying.
Right.
It's going to keep growing.
Yep.
It's going to kill by frost. So you got to get broccoli going ahead so it can compete with that Sudex that's coming up.
Yep.
And then the frost comes in and releases it, and you get it finished. You know. The other thing that Ron said that was fun was when he was talking about how he tried to talk about Farmscaping, which he's quite able to do. So he had to go where people wanted him to. Earlier on in our discussions, when we were getting into formulas and all, I said this is not a formula thing. You can't get the reductionist on. You have to really pay attention to the dynamics. And he just turned to me one time and said, Pat, you're right. They just want formulas, and this isn't reductionist. Right. You got it. You cannot boil it down to formulas.
Right.
I say that, but I also want to, because we kind of didn't get all of our expression and our take and our respect. We didn't get much of our respect for Brinkley out of all because we're using some examples of Brinkley saying this and that because he's so much into the science of it. Brinkley has done probably some of the most spectacular farmscape.
Oh man, just unbelievable. He put Pat and I to shame.
You know,
He bought BB50 and teased all the seeds out. And then put them in a planter and would say, you know, he'd call us, he'd go, how'd you put it out? I go, well, I shake the bag up and go out and go.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'm not even talking to you anymore.
Right, yeah. He just got all kinds of good stuff and taught us tons, you know. So it takes that. We want the people who want to quantify, but then try and tell Kenny Haynes he's got to count out how many of these plants he's going to put out in his farmscaping. He's not going to do it.
No.
You know. So you both have the scientist to quantify, and then you learn how to, what that is, and then you get to it after a while. You look at it and go, that's a good mix. You know, I got what I need. And meanwhile, that scientist got it all counted out, and he can tell you, yes, that works because of this, and we want both. And Brinkley is doing the scientist part wonderfully. I don't mean that,
Oh, yeah.
He's a little prejudiced against weeds. It's okay. Yeah. I'll let my weeds grow without him. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I hope, let this be the beginning of something that we, Pat and I have been around here for 22 years. Sometimes a little hard to get up with us, but, that's okay. But we're here to help. Here's this website. A lot of, what I'd say is most of the stuff we saw today is on this. So if you just go through and look at these pictures, we're going to get better with this, take better macro photos, I had a great movie of this parasitic wasp stinging a looper and straightening it out and putting it under its mouth and flying off with it. I sent it to him. We were geeking out. This was insect porn for us. I'm like, oh, you should see this thing, Pat. It does this pneumatic pumping of the thorax before it flies off.
See, Richard and I can go for months without talking to each other, and real often what the call is you won't believe what I just saw.
Right. That was Pat going, I saw an imported cabbage one flying sideways in the field. It was a dragonfly. I'm like, okay, that's what I need to know. But thank you, guys.
No, it didn't glow. Not like fresh stuff on a pillow. And I should have took a picture of this because I didn't know, at first I don't know how to take pictures of fluorescing colors, and they come out weird on the camera. Because your eye, it would be like bright yellow, and I take a picture of it and be this kind of pale white. And I'm like, no, people need to see what I'm seeing. All right, so I'm out, I'm doing this, and so suddenly one night I'm sick, and my wife is gone. And this is when I always turn into mad sick because I'm like, okay, I can do the things that she would not want me to do. I go out, and I go to trees that I know has beetles on them. And the beetles have laid eggs, and the larvae are in the ovisacs eating the adelgids, okay? And I shine this light, and there's 4 colors. Blue, chartreuse, yellow-green, yellow, and bright orange. Bright orange is the predator poop. Green, chartreuse green is a squished adelgid.
I go out to this tree in March. This is March 11th. Same day as the earthquake in Japan. And I look on the underside of this tree, and it glows all these different colors. So I take a clipping, and I go in, and there's ovisacs, but these ovisacs are glowing orange. So I touch it with a pin, and a Laricobius larvae comes popping out there like a little ladybug larvae. It's in there chewing. And I'm like, no way. So this thing goes out onto a needle, it sits there for a minute, goes back in. So I go down the limb a little further, here's another ovisac, and it's orange. And I touch it again, larva pops out again, and suddenly I'm like, no way. So long story short, you guys, if you have hemlocks or you know people that need help with hemlocks, during certain times, just starting to happen now because the adelgid has just broken diapause, but you can take an ultraviolet light and go out under hemlocks that have these predators where we live now, and I can show you them eating, because when they start damaging the adelgids glow. There's some kind of terpene or some kind of pinene, you know what I mean, some ring structure that glows. And if you think about it, I'll give you my take on this as a scientist, is back millions of years ago when the Earth's atmosphere was much less, it was mainly conifers. And if you think about conifers, conifers go up to the tree line because they're UV resistant. They can tolerate ultraviolet way more than deciduous trees because of their needles. And that's how they evolved in the earth in that real hard ultraviolet light, and then they gradually shifted the climate to allow these other things to come in. So suddenly I start getting serious about this now, man. All right, so I go out now. When I go to Seattle, I got this. Now this, I don't, it doesn't really matter. Okay, I just wanted to show you that it works. There we go. So this is 13 watt. The actual best thing to use is just a regular hippie black light that you can buy at CVS or Walmart or wherever you buy hippie black. A regular just fluorescent black light works great. So the other thing that I did, you see, you know, you have tinifloras, you can see where I slobbered on myself here today. So this is the kind of stuff. So this is the kind, I mean, so what I want to tell you guys is we just started in on this. I'll bet you some other stuff out there in that garden glows at night, and we haven't taken the time yet to figure that out. But wouldn't that be a cool thing if you could just go through and wand a bunch of stuff and say, now here's what I can do. I took this idea and I gave it to the buddy of mine that I used to be in a band with, all right, a guitar player, because I'm like, I'm poking the box here. I'm going to drop this into this guy's brain and see what comes burping back out, right? So I give it to him, and he thinks, and the next day I get this link to him, 100 watt ultraviolet stage wash. You know, for stages, apparently I didn't realize this, but they use ultraviolet all the time. And so we could put one of those under a tree with a high-res camera when the predators are active as the larva stage, and estimate the predation, where before, one of the reasons I have such a glorious hump like Mr. Burns is because I'm always under the scope looking at this stuff. And so this turns out to be a way to do this that's non-invasive. You can just count the orange, you know, I mean, hey. And so this, I just discovered this last March. The Forest Service is just now believing me because of all the other stuff that I've told them that has come true, where they used to, you know, go, okay, we're going to have to wait and get independent verification because that guy is crazy, right? But I'm crazy in a good way, all right?